These attack and damage step rulings could cost you your next tournament match, and maybe even pop your bubble. Hey everybody, this is Tom Box. It's good to be doing some ruling stuff again, and dueling stuff. And speaking of dueling stuff, the last video uploaded was Gold Pride versus Cash Tier. Yes, it's current meta. I put my money where my mouth is. I played Gold Pride this time, and I'm going to show you guys what the Gold Prides can do. It's really, really good. Even under D-Shifter, you still have a pretty decent chance against them, as long as you know what you're doing, so check it out. But honestly, the real question is, Konami, where's the ban list at? I mean, that's what the question everyone's asking. But ban list or not, these are some of the rulings that you guys can equip yourself with that probably won't go obsolete after a ban list. And trust me, these next 10 minutes will probably save your tournament run. These are a lot of damage step stuff. But first, merch drop alert. First of all, well, when the Ulti Instincts get restocked, I promised I was going to make an announcement. So here is that announcement. The Ulti Instincts are now fully restocked in the MST merch store. So go get it while you can. You guys are buying in crazy quantities. I don't know how long they're going to last. But on top of that, we did launch a second and new product in the Willpower series. And if you vibe with the Dark Destruction energy, Ulti Instinct isn't your thing. Well, guys, check out the Ulti Ego. This is the Ulti Ego sleeves that we have just launched. These have a dark fire design aimed to be the counterpart to the Ulti Instinct design, and if you're vibing with this is really nice. Multi-layer foiling, it is beautiful. Aside from our beautiful foil sleeve lines, guys, check out our Carbon series, which are our tournament series sleeves, which are the Carbon blacks and the Carbon whites. You guys have loved it so much. You've even sold out the white multiple times, but we've kept a lot of stock just so that you guys can enjoy it in your tournament play. From, sleeves, mats, over sleeves, and box dividers, we have your TCG accessory essentials available for you guys at MSTmerch.com. Thank you guys for supporting us. I can't thank you guys enough. And let's get into some game-saving rulings. As per usual, I'm going to test your intellect. So I'm going to be posing most of these as questions to see if you guys can answer it, and I'll give you guys my answer. So this is, of course, a ruling quiz episode, and we're going to see how well you do. So leave it down in the comment section of what you think is correct, what you think is incorrect, or maybe what you think I did is incorrect. So leave it down in the comment section, and I'll even answer some common ruling questions that did come up over the past regional as well. So I guess throw that in there to pad some time, I guess. Question number 1. Player A has a Psychic End Punisher at 20,000 attack points gained from its own effect and sits at 1,500 life points. Player B has a Scareclaw Cash Tier and a Tearlament's Cash Tier, and they're sitting at 8,000 life points. Player B declares an attack with Tearlament's Cash Tier into Psychic End Punisher. Player A says, "Oh, it's game," but Player B says, "No, it's not game." So then they call a judge and you show up. Player A describes the situation as, "Oh, but this is just like Eldritch, the Golden Lord. It keeps its attack even under skill drain." Player B argues that it doesn't work for this case. For relevant rulings, rather than put it on screen, I'm just going to tell you guys, Psychic End Punisher is unaffected by the opponent's activated effects while the life is lower, whereas Scareclaw Cash Tier negates the effect of any monster that battles with a Cash Tier or a Scareclaw monster. So what is the correct answer? So you guys can take your time. I'm just going to take 3 seconds, or you can pause the video. So it's 3, 2, 1. Let's resolve this. If you answered no, it is not game and it is not lethal damage for player B, then you would be correct. It's kind of simple, kind of not. It's just a multi-layered question, so let's kind of break it down part by part. Psychic End Punisher technically is unaffected by activated effects while the controller's life points is lower. However, that's for activated effects. Scareclaw Cash Tier is not an activated effect, it's a continuous effect, so upon the attack coming from the Tearlament's Cash Tier, it is a Cash Tier monster, the effect of Psychic End Punisher would be negated. Now this negated part really is important because it's the reason why the attack of Psychic End Punisher drops back down to 35, because it is a self-adding effect that happens on the field, and so once it gets negated, it goes back down to 35. So the most damage that the Tearlament Cash Tier swinging into is going to take is 12. So 35 to the 23, that's 1,200 damage, and since the other player has 8,000 life points, they're only taking 12 and they're still alive. So the other thing we have to address is the argument of why is this different from the Eldritch, the Golden Lord. So there's 2 things to note here. One, Elvish Golden Lord, whenever it activates from the graveyard and adds itself back to hand, you can summon out any zombie monster, and then when you summon out that zombie monster is the one that gains that the protection and the attack gain. But note, it is something that's activating in the graveyard and basically resolving in the graveyard, and then it results in a monster being summoned. So that stuff is like applied effect that's already been applied to the game state. As for the other part to note is that attack boosting effects that don't just boost itself, but it can boost other monster. Once something that can boost itself or other monster is involved, once the effect becomes applied, even if you skill drain, it doesn't even matter. In that particular case, it would be like, let's go with attack reduction, say like a Blackwing Gale. Gale having the attack of a Stardust Dragon. So if in a later turn somehow these monsters are still alive and you activate skill drain, well, the Stardust is still going to be at half. Even if you negate the Gale, it doesn't matter, because even if the Gale dies, your Stardust is still going to be half because that's already applied onto those cards. But all if not most self-gaining effects, if you do reset it, they go back to the original value, such as like even Dragoon. If Dragoon negates a card effect and destroys the card and puts it up by 1,000, and all of a sudden you manage to land a skill drain because of it, that monster, the Dragoon, is going to go back down to 3,000. Question number 2, Cypher Gear Gamma versus Purrely Plump Temporary Banishing. Okay, here's a fun teaser for you guys. There's an Purrely Plump on the opponent's side of the field, and on my side I have a Cypher Gear Gamma and a Cypher Driver summoned through the effect of the Gamma. So during my opponent's turn, they're like, oh, I'm going to use the effect of Purrely Plump. I'm going to attach one of the spell cards, and I'm also going to banish temporarily your Driver. So come the end phase, this is where the argument steps in. The Purrely player says, okay, the Driver comes back and you can resolve your Gamma, banishing both, but the player controlling Gamma, I'm like, no buddy, I'm gonna keep my Driver on the field, only banishing out my Cypher Gear Gamma. Who's correct on this one? You guys, pause the video if you need to think about it, but it does seem like there's a little bit of a complicated inner working since both of them are only temporarily on the field, so how does this work out? In this particular scenario, the Driver will actually remain on the field after it comes back from Purrely Plump, and only the Gamma would get banished by its own effect, because once the Driver leaves the field and comes back, it is no longer affected by the Gamma. Like, the lingering effect no longer applies to it, that part is removed, and therefore only the Gamma is removed. Like, I'll give you another scenario. If you have Interdimensional Transporter and you say you banish your Gamma temporarily, you can actually just banish the Driver and then resolve the Interdimensional Transporter, bringing back the Gamma. And you kind of see why those effects, they just basically get removed once they get temporarily banished. But you hear a very common argument, which is temporary control. In fact, temporary control probably deserves its own video here. So when you take control of your opponent's monster temporarily with enemy controller and then you banish it with Interdimensional Transporter, or it gets banished by Farfa, then what happens when it comes to end phase? The monster comes back onto the field and is immediately returned back to the opponent, because the effect that you took control of it no longer applies, and you just give it back immediately. There's no timing for you to interact with it. You can't use it to like activate a card, pay cost, send it to the graveyard. You immediately give it back because it remembers that it no longer has an effect that is currently applying to it. Rather than, the effect of enemy controller expired normally, it basically was completely removed once it got banished, so when the monster returns, it goes back to the opponent's side, giving you no timing to interact with the card. Question number 3, Purrely Happiness versus Battle Destruction? The question is, what happens when you have an Purrely Happiness with the Happy Memory attached to it as a material when it gets destroyed by battle? What happens? This is the challenge question. Okay? Card text wise, at the end of the damage step, if this card battled, you can add one Purrely card from your deck to your hand. Also, if this card has a Purrely Happy Memory as material, you can have the attack of one face-up monster on the field. That's the relevant card text. Can you guys solve this one? Because this one was a stumper to me, and I feel like sharing with you guys because it definitely wasn't as obvious as I thought it was. Alright? Okay. Are you guys ready? Let's go. So if you said that Purrely Happiness is going to activate its effect on the field, add a Purrely card from the deck to the hand, and also apply the other effect of having one face-up monster on the field's attack, you would be wrong. You'd be wrong on both counts. However, you do get to activate the effect to add. Let me kind of clarify this. I think the most complicated part about this card is that this particular timing is at the end of damage step if this card battled. So there's a difference between after damage calculation and end of damage step. End of damage step is one step below the after damage calc. So if you compare this card with Hayate, you would probably make a mistake here, because Hayate activates at the end of damage calculation, where it's still on the field. It would be able to send a card from the deck to the graveyard, and then it would be destroyed in the end of damage step. But end of damage step is when things that are marked for destruction, they are sent to the graveyard. So in this particular case, end of damage step would be like the timing where Mystic Tomato would activate because it got destroyed and it activates in the graveyard as a trigger, such as like Sangan as well. Like, things are in the graveyard. So in this case, at the end of damage step, Purrely Happiness is destroyed and sent to the graveyard. So does it get to activate in the graveyard? The answer is yes. This card technically still did battle, and I believe the game still recognizes this as this card. So, you know, it's good that you get to activate it while it's on the field or in the graveyard. So this is a really rare case that you have at the end of damage step if this card battled, and so you do get to add the card. However, you do not get to use the effect. Also, if this card has a Purrely Happiness material, you get to have the attack of one face-up monster on the field. That effect cannot apply because you're no longer on the field. You don't have the material attached, so you cannot apply that part of the effect. So you get the search, but you do not get to have the monster. This is actually pretty impactful, considering that, hey, maybe you wanted to use this card as a follow-up to take down another monster. Now you only get the card, but you don't get to do the face-up. This thing was pretty stumpy, and I think that's the part that you need to understand, that at the end of damage step is different from after damage calc. That's it for the main question. Some just quick fire Q&A. Can Super Heavy Samurai Soul Gaia booster equip to the Link one, the Scarecrow? And the answer is yes, it is considered as a tuner, but you cannot synchro with it because it doesn't have a level. It is a Link monster. By mechanic, it doesn't work. And the last question here is Time Tearing Morganite versus Pot of Extravagance, Pot of Prosperity. If you've activated Time Tearing Morganite the previous turn and then you draw 2 cards during your turn, are you allowed to activate Pot of Extravagance, Pot of Prosperity? And the answer is yes. That drawing thing now is an applied condition onto you. It is not an effect per se. It's a condition that's going to apply for the rest of the game. So you didn't activate a card effect that would result in you drawing cards. So yes, you can activate Pot of Extravagance, Pot of Prosperity if you're playing Time Tearing Morganite. So that answers that. And so we've reached the end of this video. Guys, don't forget to check out MSTmerch.com. Pick these up before they sell out. People have been buying them in ridiculous quantities. I was wondering if I should be limiting the quantity, but I'm not going to do that, so pick it up while you still can. These are the Ulti Egos, the Ulti Instincts, and don't forget to check out our Carbon series, which have been some of the fan favorites out there. And if you guys see me at events and you guys are in line and I'm saying hi and I'm holding a bag, chances are I've got some goodies in that bag. You know, that's just a shout out for you guys for knowing who I am, but you have to say hi to me first and answer one of my ruling questions. That's all I got for this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, well, hit that thumbs up button, really appreciate it. Hit subscribe, ding that notification bell, it really helps support the channel, and you know, it keeps people up to date with rulings so you guys can play fair, play square, and you know, never get screwed by people not knowing the rules. And I'll see you guys in the next one.